I was with Felix for 5 years, turning his cold mansion into a home. Today, he brought Michael back, his frail, sickly childhood friend, and a pure white Persian cat. Felix's voice was devoid of warmth as he pointed at my cat. "Nick, Michael's allergic to your cat. Get rid of it." I clutched my chest, the familiar tightness of an asthma attack making it hard to breathe. "But Felix, I'm allergic to his cat. The kind of allergic that lands me in the hospital." Michael immediately started coughing for the drama, leaning weakly against Felix. "Felix, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have come. Please don't make things hard for Nick." Felix's face went cold. "Nick, don't be so childish. Michael isn't well. Why are you arguing with him?" He didn't even spare me another glance, ordering the butler directly, "Throw that stray out." My cat, Machi, my only comfort in this empty house, was roughly shoved into a carrier. "And your room," Felix added, as if announcing some trivial matter. "The master bedroom is the quietest. Michael needs to rest. You can sleep in the guest room." I looked at the man I'd loved for 5 years, and for the first time, my heart felt no pain, only a bone-deep chill. This wasn't a discussion. It was an eviction. "I'm not moving." The moment I said those 3 words, the air froze. Felix's brow furrowed, his expression making me look like a lunatic throwing a tantrum. "Nick, have you made enough of a scene?" Behind him, Michael's pale, innocent face was already framed with teary, red-rimmed eyes. He tugged on Felix's sleeve, his voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. "Felix, just forget it. It's my fault. I can stay in the guest room, or maybe I should just leave. It seems like Nick really doesn't like me." As he spoke, his misty eyes darted toward me, carrying a hidden spark of provocation and triumph. "Look what you've done. You've scared him," Felix snapped, his impatience cutting into me like a knife. "He just got back to the country, and he hasn't recovered yet. You have to make things difficult for him right now, don't you?" I laughed, a laugh that hurt my chest and made my breathing more ragged. "I'm making things difficult? Felix, this is my room and Machi is my cat. Now some outsider waltzes in here with an allergen, demanding my room and wanting to throw out my cat. And you think I'm the one causing trouble? Outsider?" Felix repeated, his voice dropping dangerously low. "Nick, watch your words. Michael is not an outsider." "Then what am I?" I stared him down. "A pet you can throw away whenever you want? Or a free housekeeper?" "I'm so sorry, Nick." Michael chimed in again at the perfect moment. He walked toward me, trying to take my hand, but I pulled away. He wasn't embarrassed at all, only looking more aggrieved. "I didn't know Machi was so important to you. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. You can hit me if you want, just don't blame Felix." His whole act was a textbook case of playing the victim, casting me as the villain bullying the frail, innocent flower. "Cut the crap," I said. "Done with pretending. Nice try with the guilt trip, but I spend enough time online to recognize it. You can pull that act on Felix, but don't try it with me." Michael's face went white, as if I'd just deeply insulted him, and he swayed on his feet. "Neat." As expected, Felix exploded. He pulled Michael into his arms, his eyes filled with disgust as he looked at me. "How did you become like this? So bitter and unreasonable." "Become like what? You drove me to this." I was practically shouting, the scent from the Persian cat making me dizzy. "Felix, either his cat goes or I go." "Fine. Just fine." Felix sneered, so angry he started to laugh. "You've grown a backbone, have you? Threatening me now." He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Mr. Peterson? Get over to the house right now. Take that mutt Machi and get rid of him. Dump him as far away as possible. I don't want to see him ever again." The voice on the phone was crystal clear, every word a hammer shattering the last of my illusions. I lunged for the phone, but Felix shoved me away. I stumbled back, hitting the corner of the coffee table. A sharp pain shot through my side. "Felix, are you okay? Does it hurt?" Michael didn't even look at me, frantically checking Felix's arm as if he was afraid a lunatic like me might have hurt him. Felix shook him off and stalked toward me. His shadow completely enveloped me, his voice devoid of any emotion. "Nick, I'm giving you one last chance. Get to the guest room. Now, don't make me use force." My body was trembling from lack of oxygen and rage. I looked at him, the man I once thought I could spend my life with. Right now, his face held nothing but indifference and contempt. Just then, the butler and 2 security guards walked in, carrying a metal cage. They walked straight to the patio, ignoring me completely, and roughly opened Machi's cat bed. "No," I screamed, throwing myself toward them. "Don't touch him." A guard easily held me back, his arm like an iron clamp. I watched, helpless, as my Machi, terrified, curled into a ball before being heartlessly snatched up and thrown into the cold metal cage. "No!" His terrified cry pierced my eardrums. "Felix!" I screamed his name hysterically. "You bastard!" He just watched coldly, letting my heart be torn to shreds. Leaning against his chest, Michael gave me a silent, victorious smile. It was a malicious, blinding smile. In that moment, my world came crashing down. The guest room was cold and damp, the air thick with the smell of mildew. I curled up on the bed. I had already used up my entire asthma inhaler, but the suffocating feeling in my chest didn't ease at all. From outside the door, I could faintly hear Michael's delicate laughter and Felix's gentle reassurances. "Felix, do you think Nick will be mad at me? Don't worry about him. He's just a spoiled lunatic. You just rest. I'll have the kitchen make you whatever you want. Hee hee, I want you to make me your special cupcakes. Can you?" Of course. Listening to their intimate conversation, my stomach churned. I ran to the bathroom and threw up until I was empty. The person in the mirror was pale, her eyes red and swollen. Complete wreck. I suddenly remembered something from 5 years ago. I was a sophomore in college then, sold by my so-called family to a bald, 50-something businessman for $30,000. Just as I hit rock bottom, Felix appeared out of nowhere. He kicked open the door to the private room, a group of bodyguards in black suits behind him. The bald businessman saw him and nearly wet himself, scrambling to his knees to beg for mercy. Felix didn't even look at him. He walked straight to me, took off his expensive suit jacket, and draped it over my torn clothes. His voice was deep and pleasant. "Don't be afraid. I'm taking you home." That was the first time I met Felix. He was like a bolt of lightning that split my dark life wide open. He paid off my family's debts, allowing me to finally cut ties with those leeches. He gave me a home, this mansion. He took me to the finest restaurants, bought me more clothes than I could ever wear, and indulged all my little whims. I thought I was special. I thought he loved me. For him, I gave up on grad school and my dream of becoming a professional artist. I willingly stayed in this gilded cage, cooking and cleaning for him, managing his entire life. I thought that was happiness. Looking back now, it's also laughable. My phone vibrated. It was a message from my childhood friend, Ethan. "Nick, I've got something on that Michael guy you asked me to look into. I sent the file to your email. It's complicated. Brace yourself." I took a deep breath and opened my email. The attachment contained a detailed file. Michael, 25, grew up next door to Felix. They were childhood friends. He had a congenital heart defect and had been frail his whole life. At 18, he went abroad for treatment and had been overseas for the past 5 years. At the end of the file was an internal hospital report. My name was listed prominently. Matching recipient, Michael. Result, perfect match. Heart, a perfect match. The blood in my veins turned to ice. No wonder. No wonder Felix had shown up out of nowhere to save me. No wonder he was so good to me, making sure I was well-fed, healthy, and safe. It wasn't love. He was raising a spare heart. I was a living, breathing, thinking organ bank. How ridiculous. How utterly absurd. I slammed my phone against the wall. The screen shattered instantly. The loud noise startled the people outside. The door was thrown open with a bang. Felix stood in the doorway, his face furious. "Nick, what the hell are you doing now? Don't you know Michael has a weak heart? He can't handle being startled." I looked at him, the man I had loved for 5 years, and who had deceived me for just as long. I suddenly wanted to ask him, if Michael needed a new heart right now, would he push me onto the operating table without a second thought? But I didn't ask. I just looked at him and said calmly, Felix, let's break up. Felix froze, as if he hadn't heard me correctly. What did you say? I said, I enunciated every word, using all the strength I had. We're breaking up. I'll get out of your house, and from now on, we're done. Felix's face turned livid. He probably thought this was just another one of my tantrums, another attempt to threaten him with a breakup. He sneered, his eyes full of ridicule. Nick, who do you think you are? You think you can survive without me? The food you eat, the clothes you wear, the things you use, what part of your life didn't I give you? Do you really want to go back to that family of leeches? I'll pay you back every penny you've spent on me over the years, I said. Pay me back? He laughed as if it were the funniest joke in the world. With what? Selling those pathetic paintings of yours? Nick, don't be naive. He strode toward me and grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. Let me tell you something. This isn't over until I say it's over. So you're gonna stay put and stop pulling these useless stunts. His grip was strong, and my jaw ached. My tears finally, shamelessly, began to fall. Not because of the pain or because of his threats, but because I felt a deep, profound sorrow for the pitiful fool I had been for the past 5 years. Seeing my tears, Felix's expression softened for a fraction of a second, but he said nothing. He just let go and turned to leave the room. Just before the door closed, I heard him say in a low voice to someone outside, "Watch him. Don't let him leave." I was under house arrest. My phone was confiscated, the guest room window was nailed shut, and guards were posted at my door 24 hours a day. Felix probably thought that if he broke my legs, I'd remain his little canary in a cage. A maid brought me meals 3 times a day, but I couldn't eat a single bite. Michael came to see me once. He stood outside the door, speaking in his usual soft yet malicious tone. Nick, don't be mad at Felix. He's just doing what's best for you. The world outside is so dangerous. How could you survive on your own? The safest for you here. He paused, a smile in his voice. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, to celebrate my return, Felix booked the entire Starlight Room. He's throwing a welcome party for me tonight. Isn't that the restaurant you always wanted to go to? What a shame you won't get the chance. Get lost. That was the only word I said. The sound of his footsteps faded away, their rhythm cheerful. The Starlight Room, the most romantic rotating restaurant in the city. I had begged Felix to take me there. He'd promised that for our 5th anniversary, he would book the whole place just for me. Our 5th anniversary was today, so he hadn't forgotten. He just had a new person to celebrate with. My heart was so numb I could barely feel the pain. Late that night, I was woken by a loud banging on the door. It was Felix. He was drunk, reeking of alcohol, his handsome face flushed. He stumbled into the room and threw his arms around me. Nick, he murmured, burying his head in my neck. Don't be mad anymore, okay? I know I was wrong. My body went rigid. I didn't move. Today it's our anniversary, I remember, he slurred. But Michael, he wasn't feeling well. I couldn't just leave him alone. Michael again. It was always Michael. What do you want? Huh? Tell me. I'll give you anything, he said, kissing my neck as his hands started wandering under my clothes. I want to be free, I said, pushing him away. My voice was as cold as ice. Felix froze. He looked up, his eyes hazy with drink, as if trying to figure out if I was serious. You're still doing this? His patience ran out, his gaze turning dangerous again. Nick, my tolerance has its limits. And what? I stared right back at him. You're gonna lock me up forever? Felix, what gives you the right? I do, he roared. Because you're mine. He tore at my pajamas and pinned me to the bed. The overwhelming stench of alcohol and an unfamiliar cologne, the one Michael always wore, enveloped me. My stomach heaved. I felt sick. Don't touch me, I struggled, pushing him with all my might. You're disgusting. Disgusting? Those 2 words sent him over the edge. His eyes were terrifyingly red, his reason consumed by alcohol and rage. I'm disgusting. Nick, Don't you forget who pulled you out of the gutter. Without me, you'd be in some other man's bed by now. His words were poisoned needles, stabbing deep into my heart. Humiliation, anger, despair, every emotion erupted at once. I don't know where the strength came from, but I grabbed the lamp on the nightstand and smashed it over his head. Thud, a dull sound. The world went quiet. Felix stopped moving. He stared at me in disbelief, blood trickling down from his temple. The red shocked my eyes. I froze too. I had hurt him. Good. Just great. Felix wiped the blood from his face and laughed. It was a twisted, crazed laugh. Nick, you've really grown up. He stood, looking down at me with a ruthlessness I had never seen before. It seems I've been too lenient with you. You've forgotten your place. He took out his phone and made a call. Peterson, contact that art gallery I had you look into before. Tell them I'm hosting a special exhibition tomorrow. The name of the collection will be Canary. The artist used Nick's name. As for the location, set it up in the Central Plaza. I want everyone to come and admire just how talented my Nick is. My blood ran cold. The gallery he mentioned was one that had rejected my submissions before. And the paintings, they were a series of nude self-portraits I had done when Felix and I first got together, all to please him. The model in every painting was me. They were filled with desperate attempts to please and explicit pandering. They were the part of my past I was most ashamed of. He was going to strip away my last shred of dignity and put it on display for the world to see, to trample on. Felix, my voice trembled. You can't do this. Can't I? He leaned down, his cold fingers tracing my cheek. Scared now? It's too late. Please. Tears streamed down my face. Don't do this. I'm begging you. Begging me? He smiled cruelly. You had that same pathetic look on your face when you begged me to take you home. Nick, remember this. You're the one who betrayed me first. He straightened up, adjusted his disheveled clothes, and reverted back to the high and mighty CEO. The last look he gave me was filled with contempt and cruelty. Enjoy the show, my little artist. The door slammed shut, locking all my pleas and despair inside that cold room with me. The next day, I was escorted by bodyguards to the Central Plaza. On a giant electronic screen, my paintings were playing on a loop. Every single one of them was me, naked, vulnerable. The images were blown up, every detail starkly visible. A crowd had gathered, pointing and murmuring. Oh my God, isn't that the guy the CEO of Sterling Corp keeps? Why is he showing this in public? Wow, shameless. He'd clearly do anything to get ahead. Look at him. I bet he's slept with thousands of guys. Mr. Sterling really drew the short straw, picking up trash like that. Their filthy words were like countless hands, tearing away the last of my clothes. I stood in the middle of the crowd, my body numb, my hands and feet cold. Felix was standing not far away, with a smiling Michael beside him. Michael was clinging to his arm, saying timidly, Felix, isn't this a bit too much? Nick might. He brought this on himself, Felix said, his voice flat. If he doesn't learn his lesson, he'll never know his place. But I'm worried he might do something drastic, Michael said, looking at me with concern in his eyes, but I could see the glee behind it. He doesn't have the guts, Felix scoffed. He was right. In his eyes, I was just a coward who clung to life, a parasite who couldn't survive without him. My gaze cut through the crowd and met his. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just looked at him, calmly, and then I smiled. Felix frowned, seemingly surprised by my reaction. Just then, my phone rang. The bodyguards had given it back to me. Felix probably wanted me to hear for myself how the whole world was cursing my name. The caller ID said Ethan. I answered. Nick, are you okay? I saw the news. Don't do anything stupid. I'm on my way. Ethan's voice was frantic. I'm fine, I said, my voice eerily calm. Ethan, what you said before, do you still mean it? What? You said that if I was willing, you'd take me away, somewhere no one could ever find us. There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a firm, resolute answer. I mean it. I'll always mean it. Okay, I said. Come get me. After hanging up, I felt the last of my strength drain away. My chest grew tighter, and my vision started to blur. I knew my asthma and heart palpitations were flaring up at the same time. I braced myself against a nearby railing, gasping for air. I pulled the empty inhaler from my pocket and pressed it uselessly. The sounds of laughter and chatter from the crowd grew distant. I saw Felix walking toward me. His face held a trace of irritation and something else I couldn't decipher. A flicker of panic. "Nick, stop pretending," he said, his voice still cold as he reached me. "Drop the dying act and come home with me." I lifted my head and looked at his face, so close to mine. The face I had loved for 5 years. Using my last ounce of strength, I told him, "Felix, did you know today is my 25th birthday?" Felix's body went rigid. I continued, "It's also the day I decided to die." With that, I couldn't hold on any longer. My body went limp and I collapsed backward. Before my consciousness faded completely, I thought I saw Felix reaching for me in a panic, his face filled with a terror I had never seen before. I thought I heard a gasp from the crowd. "Oh my God, he's coughing up blood." And from farther away, I thought I heard Ethan's heart-wrenching scream, "Nick!" But none of it mattered anymore. The only thing left was the last thing Michael had said to me in a hospital hallway. His words echoed in my mind like a vicious curse as I finally slipped into darkness. "Did you really think Felix loved you? The only reason he picked you up was because your heart is a perfect match for mine." I didn't die. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was a plain white ceiling and the sharp smell of antiseptic. This wasn't one of Felix's private hospitals. "You're awake?" A gentle voice spoke beside me. I turned my head and saw Ethan. He looked thinner, with faint dark circles under his eyes, but the way he looked at me was as kind as ever. "Ethan," I managed to say, my voice hoarse. "Don't talk," he said quickly, pressing a hand to my shoulder. "You just came out of critical care. You're still very weak." He helped me sit up, carefully placing 2 pillows behind my back. He brought me a glass of warm water and used a cotton swab to moisten my chapped lips. "How long was I out?" 3 days and 3 nights, Ethan sighed. "Acute asthma attack complicated by heart failure. The doctor said if you'd arrived 10 minutes later, there would have been nothing they could do." Heart failure. I gave a bitter smile. The heart I had so carefully maintained for someone else had finally decided to quit on me first. "What about Felix?" I asked. At the mention of his name, Ethan's expression turned cold. "He can't find you. I had you transferred to the Military General Hospital. He has no influence here." Ethan paused, hesitating for a moment before speaking. "Nick, there's something I have to tell you." He pulled up a chair and sat down, his expression serious. "Do you remember I told you I studied clinical medicine in college before switching my focus?" I nodded. "My specialty was cardiothoracic surgery, and my mentor was Dr. Joe, the country's leading expert on heart disease." Ethan looked at me and said, word by word, 5 years ago, Sterling Corp contacted my mentor through a confidential channel. They offered a massive research grant on one condition: find and reserve a perfect heart donor for an important member of the Sterling family. My breathing stopped. That important member was Michael. And the perfect donor they found, Ethan's voice was full of pity, was you, Nick. Even though I had already guessed, hearing the truth laid out so bluntly made my heart feel like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain making it impossible to breathe. "So, that whole hero saving me act, it was all a lie from the start," I said. "Yes," Ethan nodded. "The bald businessman was hired by Felix. He had already investigated your family, your situation, everything. He planned to show up at your most desperate moment so you would be devoted to him, willing to be protected by him. Protected, more like caged," I said with a self-deprecating laugh. "Nick," Ethan took my cold hand in his. "I'm sorry. I suspected something 5 years ago, but I had no proof and I was afraid to tell you. I was worried. I know I cut him off. You don't have to apologize. You're not the one who should be sorry." I threw back the covers, trying to get out of bed. "What are you doing?" Ethan quickly stopped me. "Leaving the hospital," I said, my eyes clear and determined. "Ethan, take me away. Somewhere Felix will never find me." "But your body..." I know my own body. I looked at him, my gaze firm. If I stay here, I really will die. I want to live for myself. Ethan looked at me for a long time. Finally, he gave a heavy nod. Okay. He stood up and tucked the covers around me. You get some more rest. I'll handle everything else. He walked out of the room, but just before closing the door, he looked back and said, Nick, welcome home. In that moment, 5 years of pain and sorrow finally burst forth as tears. I covered my face and sobbed, completely broken. Not for Felix, not for that ridiculous past, but for Ethan's simple words, welcome home. For me, a canary with broken wings, who had finally found a branch to land on. A week later, Ethan had all the paperwork sorted out. We boarded a flight heading south. As the plane took off, I looked out the window at the shrinking city below. In my heart, I said a silent goodbye to the city, to Felix, and to the Nick of the past 5 years. Goodbye, and good riddance. In the first month after I disappeared, Felix lost his mind. Ethan told me about it later. He used every contact and connection he had, turning the entire city upside down, but he couldn't find a single trace of me. He went to my old family's house to cause a scene, only to be met with a cold. We cut ties with that ungrateful kid years ago. He checked my university records, only to find my student file had already been transferred. He was like a caged beast, volatile, angry, breaking anything in sight. He would fly into a rage during company meetings over trivial data points. He fired his entire household staff because a maid made a dish I didn't like. Michael tried every trick in the book to calm him down. He faked illnesses, fainted, and even scratched a shallow cut on his wrist for attention. But Felix just coldly called the family doctor and then locked himself in the guest room I used to stay in, remaining there for the entire day. He kept the room exactly as I had left it. My shattered phone was still on the floor, my clothes still unfolded on the bed. He could only manage to fall asleep by hugging the pillow I had left behind. He started despising the cologne Michael wore, the scent he'd once found alluring. He started craving the simple, home-cooked meals I used to make, the ones he had so often criticized. He even sent out countless people to find the stray cat named Machi that he himself had ordered thrown out. But he found nothing. He finally realized that the person he thought would never leave was truly gone. The Nick he had treated as an accessory, someone he could scold and discard at will, had vanished completely from his world. He began to feel regret, but none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I settled down in a small coastal town in the south. Ethan used his savings to buy me a 2-story house with a yard. The yard was filled with sunflowers, my favorite flower. He also found Machi. It turned out that his assistant, Mr. Peterson, hadn't actually abandoned Machi but had secretly taken him to a pet shelter. As soon as Ethan got word, he went and picked him up. The moment I held Machi again, he purred and meowed in my arms, rubbing his little head against my chin. My new life had begun. Ethan left his position at the military hospital and took a job at a new private clinic in our town, becoming its youngest chief of medicine. I started painting again. I no longer painted things to please others, I painted what I wanted to paint. I painted the morning sea, the evening clouds, Machi chasing butterflies in the yard, and Ethan in the kitchen wearing an apron, cooking for me. My art had a new signature, rebirth. I posted my work online, and to my surprise, I got a response almost immediately. A gallery from overseas contacted me, saying they loved my style and wanted to sign me. I held the contract, my hands trembling with excitement. Ethan hugged me from behind, resting his chin on the top of my head. I knew it. My Nick is the best. I leaned back against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, a sense of peace I'd never known before. Ethan, thank you. Silly. You never have to thank me. He turned me around to face him. His eyes were gentle and focused, my reflection shining in them. Nick, he said softly, can I kiss you? My heart skipped a beat. I looked at him, at the man who had reached out to me when I was at my lowest and most broken. I stood on my toes and kissed him. There was no lust, no possession, just a light, gentle kiss, like a feather drifting onto a calm lake, sending out soft ripples. Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing us in a warm, golden glow. This, I thought, must be what they mean by happily ever after. 6 months later, my first solo art exhibition opened in Paris, France. The exhibition was titled Rebirth. On opening night, I stood in the spotlight wearing a white suit Ethan had picked for me. I spoke in fluent French, introducing my work to art lovers from around the world. I was no longer the shadow hiding behind Felix, no longer the parasite who needed someone else to survive. I was Nick, the artist known as Rebirth. The exhibition was a massive success. Every single painting was sold by the end of the opening night. At the celebration party, the gallery owner raised his champagne glass and said excitedly, "Shin, your talent has taken Paris by storm. We are so proud of you." I smiled and clinked glasses with him, my eyes scanning the crowd. Ethan was standing nearby, holding a glass of lemonade, watching me with a smile. I raised my glass to him and he smiled back. We didn't need words, a single look was enough. Just then, an unwelcome guest crashed the party. Felix. He was much thinner, with sunken eyes and a jaw covered in bluish stubble. His expensive suit hung loosely on his frame. He looked exhausted and haggard, completely stripped of his former commanding presence. He just stood at the entrance to the ballroom, staring at me, his eyes swirling with a complex mix of emotions I couldn't decipher. Everyone's attention turned to him. The gallery owner frowned and asked me, "Shin, who is this gentleman?" "A stranger. I don't know him," I said coolly, looking away. Felix swayed, as if he'd been physically struck. He shoved past the security guards who tried to stop him and rushed toward me like a madman. "Neat." His voice was terrifyingly hoarse. Ethan immediately stepped in front of me, shielding me. "Mr. Sterling," Ethan's voice was ice cold, "you're not welcome here. Get out of my way." Felix's eyes were bloodshot, like a cornered animal. "This is between him and me. It's none of your business." "Between you and him?" Ethan scoffed. "When you were busy grinding him into the dirt, did you think of it as something between you two then? Now that he's finally managed to piece his life back together, what do you want? To hurt him again?" "I didn't," Felix roared. "I regret it. Nick, let me explain. There's no need." I stepped out from behind Ethan and faced him calmly. "Mr. Sterling, long time no see. I trust you've been well." My tone was polite yet distant, as if I were speaking to a business acquaintance I barely knew. "Nick, don't do this to me," Felix's voice was pleading. "I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Come back with me, okay? I got rid of Michael. I'll make everything the way it was before. We can go back to how we were." "Go back?" I laughed as if he'd told the funniest joke in the world. "Mr. Sterling, have you been reading too many billionaire romance novels? You think saying I was wrong makes everyone come running back to you? Grateful?" I stepped closer, looking directly into his bloodshot eyes. "Dude, are you addicted to messing with people's heads? That whole PUA thing is so last year. The trend now is self-awareness, you get it? You used to call my work pathetic, not good enough to see the light of day." I gestured to the priceless paintings on the walls around us and smiled. "Sorry, but you can't afford a single one of my pathetic paintings now. And one more thing," I whispered, leaning in so only he could hear. "You were always so curious about why I suddenly changed, weren't you?" I watched his face freeze as I threw his own cruelty back at him, word for word. "It's because your precious Michael told me that your love was just a front. The only reason you cared was because my heart was a perfect match for his." Felix's pupils contracted violently. What did you say?" Felix's voice trembled, and his face turned deathly pale in an instant. "You didn't know?" I feigned surprise, raising an eyebrow. "I thought that was a little secret the two of you shared." "Impossible, Michael isn't like that," he muttered, as if trying to convince himself. "He's so kind, so pure." "Kind? Pure?" I laughed out loud. "Mr. Sterling, your judgment of character is as terrible as ever." I was done wasting my breath on him. I turned to the security guards. "Please escort him out. Don't let him ruin my party." "No. Nick, tell me what you mean." Felix tried to grab me, but Ethan held him back firmly. "Felix," Ethan growled. Haven't you caused enough trouble? If you want the truth, go find it yourself. Stop harassing him. Felix was dragged out of the ballroom by two large guards. His bloodshot eyes were fixed on me the entire time, filled with desperation, regret, and utter despair. The little disturbance didn't ruin the party's atmosphere. The gallery owner quickly smoothed things over. But Ethan never let go of my hand. His palm was warm, a steady source of comforting strength. Did he scare you? He asked in a low voice. I shook my head and leaned against his shoulder. No, actually, it felt good. And it did. Felt good. Seeing the man who once stood so tall, who had crushed me under his heel, now so humbled and pathetic. How could it not feel good? I'm no saint. I'm just human. I can love and I can hate. Felix didn't show up again. I figured he went off to verify what I had said. Ethan and I stayed in Paris for a week. We went to the Louvre, the Eiffel Tower, walked along the Seine, and kissed on the Champs-Élysées. Just like any other couple in love. On the day we flew back, we saw the latest news about Sterling Corp in the airport's VIP lounge. Sterling Corp CEO Felix Sterling in bitter split with childhood friend Michael amid shocking deception. The article featured a photo of Michael being thrown out of the Sterling mansion by bodyguards. He no longer had his pitiful, delicate demeanor. His face was twisted with resentment and bitterness as he screamed hysterically at the cameras. Felix, you idiot. So what if I tricked you? That Nick is nothing but a cheap substitute. His life was meant to be mine. And you're doing this to me for him? You'll regret this. The video ended with a shot of Felix's emotionless face. He told the reporters, from this day forward, Michael has no connection to the Sterling family. Then he looked directly into the camera, as if he were looking at me. His lips moved, silently forming 3 words. I'm sorry. I closed the tablet, my face a blank slate. What could a belated apology change? Could it undo the terror Machi went through? Could it restore the dignity I lost when I was publicly shamed? Could it restart my heart that had almost stopped beating? No. What are you thinking about? Ethan's voice pulled me back to the present. I was just thinking. I turned to him and smiled. What should we have for dinner tonight? Ethan paused for a second, then smiled back. He ruffled my hair, his eyes full of affection. Whatever you want, I'll make it for you. The plane took off, climbing through the clouds. I leaned on Ethan's shoulder and closed my eyes. The ugly past was like the sea of clouds outside the window. It had existed, but I was leaving it far behind. My future held only light and the man beside me. Back home, my life was peaceful and fulfilling. My gallery opened a branch in the country, and my career flourished. My relationship with Ethan was stable and sweet. We raised Machi together, went grocery shopping together, and cuddled on the couch to watch movies. We'd occasionally bicker over whose turn it was to do the dishes. It was mundane, but it was the happiness I had always dreamed of. Felix seemed to have vanished from my world completely. I only saw his name pop up in the business news from time to time. I heard he was managing Sterling Corp well, becoming even colder and more ruthless than before, a true tyrant in the business world. I heard he had no more scandals, his personal life disturbingly clean. And I heard he was still looking for me, but I didn't care. Until one day, I received an unexpected phone call. It was Felix's mother, Mrs. Sterling, a high society woman who had once been reasonably kind to me. Nick, is that you, Nick? Her voice sounded old and weary. Mrs. Sterling, it's me. Can I ask you for a favor? She said, her voice choked with tears. Can you come see Felix? He's not going to make it. My heart skipped a beat. What happened to him? He donated his heart. Her words hit me like a bomb, exploding in my mind. Donated it? To who? Who else? That little monster, Michael. Mrs. Sterling sobbed. He hired some people to kidnap Felix and forced a heart transplant. By the time we found him, he was already... I hung up the phone and stood frozen for a long time. Ethan came up behind me and wrapped his arms around me, his voice steady. Do you want to go see him? I didn't answer. Go, Ethan said. Go and get some closure. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. In the end, I went. I saw Felix again in the ICU of the Military General Hospital. He was lying on the bed, hooked up to a tangle of tubes and cold, beeping machines. The man who had once been so invincible now looked so weak he was barely breathing. His eyes were closed, his face ashen, as if he could disappear at any moment. Mrs. Sterling sat by his bed, her hair having turned white overnight. When she saw me, she stood up and gave me a deep bow. "Nick, I'm so sorry. The Sterling family, we failed you." I stepped aside, saying nothing. "Felix, he left a letter for you." She took an envelope from the nightstand and handed it to me. I opened it. Inside was Felix's familiar, bold handwriting. But now it looked so weak. "Nick, by the time you read this, I'll probably be gone. Please forgive me for using this chance to see you one last time. I know that a million apologies could never make up for the pain I caused you. I was a bastard, I was blind, and I destroyed everything we had with my own 2 hands. I don't dare ask for your forgiveness. I only ask that, in the next life, if there is a next life, let me be the one to wait for you. Let me be the one to love you. Let me give you my heart. Yours, Felix." There were a few dried spots on the paper. Tears? I didn't know. All I knew was that the heart that had once ached for him, died for him, was now perfectly calm. Suddenly, the monitor beside the bed let out a piercing alarm. Doctors and nurses rushed in. "Patient is in V-fib. Get the defibrillator. 1 amp of epinephrine." The room descended into chaos. I stood outside the flurry of activity, an observer watching it all unfold, watching that man fight his final battle on the edge of life and death. Finally, the jagged line on the EKG flatlined into a cold, straight line. Time of death, 7:32 p.m. The doctor removed his mask and announced the end. Mrs. Sterling's sobs were heartbreaking. I turned and walked out of the room. Outside, Ethan was leaning against the wall, waiting for me. He saw me and immediately came forward, opening his arms. I fell into his embrace, burying my face in his chest. I didn't cry. I just felt that something, along with that flat line, had come to a final, permanent end. I didn't go to Felix's funeral. Ethan sent a wreath in my name with no message on it. I heard many people attended. Business tycoons, political figures. But Felix's tombstone had no epitaph, only his name. All alone. Michael was arrested. Though he got the new heart, his body suffered a severe rejection. He became a shell of his former self, wasting away in a prison hospital, living a life worse than death. They say he often screams in the middle of the night, claiming Felix's ghost has come to collect his debt. What goes around comes around. Ethan told me all this later. I just listened and said a quiet, "Oh," before going back to playing with Machi, who was rolling around at my feet. Those people, those events, they felt like stories from another lifetime. My life went back to normal. Painting, exhibitions, travel. Ethan was always by my side. He never asked about Felix, never brought up the past. He just healed me little by little in his own quiet way. He would sit and read a book while I painted. He remembered all my preferences, that I hated cilantro, that I liked my water warm. When I occasionally woke up from a nightmare, he would hold me tight and whisper, "It's okay. I'm here." Wrapped in his love, I slowly became the old Nick again, the one who could laugh and be silly and act spoiled. I painted a new picture. It was of 2 people, me and Ethan. We were standing in a field of sunflowers, with the blue sea and warm sun behind us. Machi was at our feet, chasing a butterfly. Peaceful years, a stable life. I hung the painting in our bedroom right across from the bed. That way, it would be the first thing I saw every morning. One spring afternoon, the sun was perfect. Ethan and I were lounging on chairs in the yard. Machi was purring contentedly on my stomach. "Ethan," I said suddenly, "let's get married." Ethan froze. He turned to look at me, his eyes wide with surprise and disbelief. What did you say?" I said, "Let's get married," I repeated, looking at him seriously. "I already have my ID and papers ready. They're in the second drawer of the nightstand. If you're in, we can go to the courthouse this afternoon." Ethan's eyes slowly turned red. This man, who faced everything with such calm composure, was now flustered, like a little boy. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. In the end, all he could do was nod forcefully, again and again. Okay. He pulled me into a hug so tight it felt like he was trying to merge me into his very bones. I could feel a warm drop land on my neck. I smiled and patted his back. "What are you crying for, you big dummy?" "I'm not crying," he said, his voice muffled. "The sun's just really bright." I didn't call him out. I just hugged him back and looked up at the clear blue sky. "Did you see that, Felix? I didn't end up the way you wanted, and my life didn't become the tragedy you expected. I'm doing great, better than ever. I found my light, my rebirth, my home. And you? You're just a mistake, a chapter in my life that has long been over. From now on, my story will no longer include you."